Welcome to the Sexy Freedom Media Podcast, a place to discuss pain, passion, and pursuits.
Let's get it. I want to feel alive.
Breathe.
Make some moves.
Protect the throne. This is Sexy Freedom Media Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sexy Freedom Media Podcast. It's your host, Helen Edwards, and
January Liddell. Aloha.
Today we have a special guest with us.
We will be talking to a friend of mine. We actually met at a Chamber of Commerce meeting, and the one thing that stood out to me about her was her knowledge about advertising and just the technicalities of it all. And she seems amazing. She seems credible and authoritative. I loved her speech. I loved everything about her. This is Anna Covert. She's the founder of Covert Communication, the largest digital marketing firm in Hawaii. Over the past 19 years, she's become recognized in the industry for her unwavering business ethics and love for the solar industry. A powerhouse, which she is, Covert has worked with over 150 solar companies and manufacturers worldwide with a focus on SunPower and Panasonic developing API technology solutions, and featured as preferred marketing partner for their extensive dealer networks. A true entrepreneur, Covert has created numerous technology solutions and products that solve problems for consumers and business owners as they engage online and offline, including Solar Wizard plugin, aerial impacts, the Mana solution, confirmed solar sets, the GoodBots, and is a founding partner of Reactum.io, an open source framework being used daily by IBM with contributors from over 60 leaders in the space, including Apple and Microsoft. From high-end consulting with Fortune 500 companies to helping small businesses not be taken advantage of, her mission is to lift up the industry and protect all consumers from escalating online marketing and media fraud that is plaguing the industry, which is why we invited Anna to our podcast. She is an empowered woman. And of course, that's one thing that we want to showcase is empowering women. So welcome to our show, Anna. Aloha.
Aloha. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So tell us a little bit more. You're so young. How did you get into the solar power industry?
Well, so I first came out to Hawaii and moved out here from Boston, and I was planning on going back to finish a 5-year master's program, but I graduated college early, so I wasn't able to I had to come back. And my parents were here snowbirding, so I came out and started off, I was bored. And a friend of mine, Joey Calderon, he had told the Honolulu Symphony that he would do this fashion show for charity, but he didn't have enough time. And he's like, would you take over? Because I used to do some modeling. So I said yes. And Paul Brown, Salons and Spas, was one of the big sponsors of the event. So I met with Paul, and over the next 6 weeks, put on this show. And then after I was done, I got offered 3 jobs. One with Paul Brown as his marketing director. The Honolulu Symphony offered me a job in marketing, and then a country club as well. So I obviously picked the sexiest job, which was with Paul, and told Bentley that I would not be coming back. And that's kind of how I got started here in Hawaii. And then after that, I worked at the Harris Agency. That was my first time working in digital, or not digital, but in advertising. At a advertising agency, I did a degree in marketing from Bentley University, which is a business school. And then about 2-3 years later, I started my first advertising agency at 28. But it wasn't until 2017 that I first got introduced into the solar industry. Yeah.
Well, so what was it about it that enticed you? I mean, from modeling and advertising to solar, it seems completely different. What was it that attracted you to it?
Well, so I was working, I was doing some digital advertising consulting for an agency in Santa Cruz, and they had a large SunPower master dealer, and they needed help with digital marketing. So I started doing their AdWords and remarketing, which I like to call cyber stalking. And before you knew it, that client asked if I could, he could leave that agency and if he could come and use my agency exclusively, which I agreed to. And then about 6 months later, I got a call from SunPower, and it was from this guy, Paul Sullivan, and he was working with the partner program and trying to create more approved vendors for SunPower, and asked if, said that he had visited Solar Technologies website and was really impressed. And then I cyber stalked him all over the internet. And so he went back to their site and scrolled to the bottom of the site and found me. And then, of course, I cyber stalked him as well. And he called to see if I wanted to participate. And my answer was, when do we start? So that was kind of how I got into solar. But it wasn't until COVID that I think my business really took a different direction. Because here the island got shut down, I lost a lot of big clients, like an urgent care center in Maui. And I did a lot of work with tourism, Kauai Nautical, and other tours like that. And so instead of, having to cut my contractors and things like that, I decided I had a local solar company I was working with, and they were in commercial solar. They did the Honolulu International Airport. It's called SunSpirit Energy. And I was working with them on their marketing, and they asked if I wanted to help sell solar and work with them on expanding the residential opportunities. So I agreed. And that's really when, I've been doing solar marketing for 5 years until then, or 3 years until then. But I didn't really know solar until I started selling it. And I'll tell you, it was the most rewarding experience of my life. Like when you're sitting there in front of a homeowner and, they're in Wahiawa and they have a $500 bill and kids, and there's just so much panic. And, what are they going to do? We can't afford all this power. And being able to provide them with a solution that we're going to cut this bill by 50%, lock it in for 25 years, going to get tax credits and all the security from, being off grid. It was just one of the best feelings I ever had. And so I sold a lot of solar with them. And then after that, I created the solar plugin, Solar Wizard plugin, which is the #1 in the world for WordPress. And now we're in over 24 countries and have over 3,000 downloads. And that kind of like really pivoted not pivoted, but added fuel to my solar fire. And that's when I got Panasonic to, I won the bid for their solar calculator. And since then, it's been just really pretty intense for my love of solar.
So tell us more about this API. It sounds like it's kind of like ChatGPT. It sounds like it's an AI powered thing, but can you explain a little bit more about what it entails?
Yeah, so what API means is application program interface. So what that is when we connect, you may have heard of Zapier before. Zapier is a plugin that helps connect APIs from one company, like a CRM, like a Salesforce or a Pipedrive, to another third-party API. And Zapier makes it easy to do that, right? For people who don't have any code experience. The Mana solution, which is another product that we've developed, that's our Zapier-free solution. So we take systems like SunPower, they have an API, and then they have all these dealers, thousands of dealers who are using the SunPower API, but SunPower, we're working with them now and helping dealers connect using our Mana software so that they don't have to go into 2 places to update records. So instead of them having to work in Salesforce and then go to SunPower and do the same thing, everything bidirectionally works from their CRM using this API or an application programming interface. So I do a lot of work connecting systems and creating workflows and automations that make business owners' lives easier and remove redundancies and reduce costs.
I was just going to ask, can you break it down for people who have no idea what you're talking about? Like that, I'm literally like, what the heck is she talking about? And then I understand what solar is, but when you just said I help businesses, I was like, oh, okay, I see. You're the person we call when we're like, I don't even freaking get how everybody's able to do all of these digital marketing and make their businesses explode online. You're kind of like the smartest person in the world to help manage that or figure it out for people like me who have no clue what's going on. So pretty awesome.
And so it really, for those, lay people, it really all starts with who are we targeting? Who for our business, who is our primary target audience? Right? And then now web is really the mothership of all communications. We do marketing, we go to events, but we're really trying to drive all traffic to this website or our virtual identity, right? Before, the way web, and I think even now today, what some of the problems are is that businesses think of the website as like a digital brochure, right? And it's very static. But that's not what the consumer of today wants. They want to engage with the brand. They want to be, opening toggles. They want to expand content that they want to see. They're becoming very, lazy, I'll say. They don't want to read a lot. They want to skim and watch, and then they want to deep dive. So once we understand who we're trying to target, then we say, what is our customer's journey? Once they come from whatever source, it's a direct mailer, they saw us on Google, they saw us at the Chamber of Commerce. Once they come to the website, what content do they need to see in specific order to help them understand why us, what are our leverageable points of difference as a brand, and then convert. And that conversion means filling out a form. There could be two different types. There's the hard conversions, which make more money for business owners, right? They filled out a form, they scheduled a consultation, they gave us their solid information. They called and we listened, and yes, it was a lead. And then there's also soft conversions, which could be things that are an indicator of a future sale of some kind. Maybe they downloaded a white paper, they watched a video, they signed up for a seminar maybe or online, or other things that maybe are going to indicate that they will become a customer. Then once we have those metrics identified, then we have to track that, right? So we use Google Analytics to be able to track, okay, how many people filled out the form and where did they come from? Did they come from paid advertising? Did they come, what was their journey, right? Then from there, that's where the API takes over. So now that we have this lead, we don't want it to be emailed to us because emails get lost, emails are undelivered, right? We want instead that lead goes directly into our CRM, which we use to manage our customers. So so CRM means customer relationship management. And examples of those are Salesforce, Pipedrive, HubSpot, Job Nimbus, Go High Level. It's my new favorite because of their incredible features and pricing. And the real problem today with CRMs is that I find it to be very unethical the way they charge businesses. So what they do is they charge either by a seat, by features, or by the number of contacts you have inside of the CRM, or in some cases, all three, right? Like HubSpot. And that makes it very, very hard, or for large companies, it becomes one of the greatest expenses. And for small companies, it becomes unaffordable. Because even if you have a team of 5 and now you need, $100 per user, that can be a big burden for a lot of businesses. Right? With Go High Level, for instance, they have unlimited seats, unlimited features, and I, for example, could have an account and what's called SaaS model, which is like a reseller model for $500 a month for unlimited companies and unlimited users, and then I could resell that for $300, and then that client could have unlimited users, right? But to back it up, we want to make sure that whatever CRM we are using, that this lead comes directly in so that there's no loss. We call it speed to lead. These leads, depending on the industry, are very expensive and becoming harder to get. So we want to make sure that we're nurturing that lead. The second it comes in, we're sending them a text. They get an email. It's getting queued up for someone in the team to call the customer, right? All those things are part of automations that exist inside of CRMs. And we also work with clients to identify and create those automations to help speed up their sales process and make sure that, also brand control of voice. If you have all these different salespeople, all the different way of outreaching and managing leads, then that can hurt your overall brand because they maybe are talking about you differently. But when you use automation, it takes a lot of the questions out of the mix and allows salespeople to be more effective and for the company to trust more, because we know that no matter what, the customers are seeing these messages based off of their source, where they came from. If it's self-generated, they'll have a different experience than if they came in from a paid search ad, right? Or a purchased lead from a partner. So that's part of kind of the API, get the website lead, get it right into the CRM, and then from the CRM, what else needs to happen? Is it QuickBooks integrations for billing? Are there other third-party tools that a company is using to manage leads? Like, for example, Calendly. A lot of people have that to schedule appointments. But Calendly also has an expense, right? Inside of Go High Level, there's calendars included for no additional cost, and we can use API to automatically book a scheduled appointment. So we do a lot of, I also work with companies on what we call this technology transformation. What that means is, and it's actually shocking, that most really big companies have around 100 different pieces of technology that they're subscribed to, and they're not using half, and the things they are using, they're only using a part of it. HR uses it for this, and inventory uses it for that, but that creates a lot of redundancies and also a lot of failure because people don't know what they don't know because the systems aren't speaking to each other. And then that leads to a lot of bankruptcies and inventory shortages and things like that, especially in retail.
So I'm going to go back to what you were saying about the CRM tool, because I actually have a CRM tool. I use Go High Level.
Okay,
So
that's awesome. Yay.
I absolutely love Go High Level because it has all those different features. I can schedule appointments over there. I can text through there. I can call through there. All sorts of amazing things that you can do. I haven't integrated my Facebook or my LinkedIn or anything, but you can do that on.
Yes, you can. You can schedule, so you don't need HubSpot or Buffer either.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess my question to you is, because you mentioned that you created this API. Now, is the API integrated with the CRM tool? Is that how?
Basically, think of the API. I'm gonna. You want me to share my screen and show you something?
Sure.
Okay, let me show you. So if you can enable my sharing privileges, I'll just give you a little. It's very brief. Oh no, still can't share. There, nope. There we go.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so this is mana, which as we all know in Hawaiian means power. And so mana is in between all of these different solutions, right? So it just, all that it does is it passes information from one system to another system, right? So we use this script to take the website, the WordPress website content, and then use mana instead of Zapier or other ways that you can do it with hard coding. And then that takes the lead, and we usually put it into what's called AWS or Amazon Web Services. And then from there, it shoots into whatever CRM the client's using. Then in terms of like a SunPower, for instance, if the leads are now in Go High Level or Zoho or Spotio or any of those places, and it then would go from there to SunPower. And then SunPower would also send it back to the CRM bidirectionally. So we just use APIs just to connect systems so that we can send data back and forth.
I got you. Okay, but your focus really is on solar power, though. Is that correct?
I work with all different types of industries. So some of my other big clients here are, Hilo Hattie. I'm sure you guys know them. Diamond Bakery. I work with Pacific Air Cargo, Hawaii Medical College, the delivery people. I've worked with, American Savings Bank. I've done work with Ocean Vodka, a Hemic. I did their rebrand. So I work with, Burger King and all kinds of different industries, and continue to do so. But now my lion's share of focus is on the solar industry, and I work with around 60 dealers on the mainland, and my big states are California, Arizona, New Jersey, Nevada, Florida, where we work with a lot of dealers in every state, and then create also these solutions like our plugin that helps. That's the one that I can show you the plugin if you want to see.
Yeah, sure. And I would also love to know how you market your business. These are amazing companies. Hilo Hattie, American Savings, Burger King. Those are great companies. How did you market your services to them?
I met, so when I was at Harris Agency, after I left Paul Brown, went to Harris, I was the account executive, which meant that I was kind of the person who talked to the clients. And I had Hilo Hattie back then. And then I also did the rebrand of Hawaiian Waters Venture Park with Wet n Wild, who was acquired by Village Roadshow. And then I worked on Burger King. I wasn't the primary contact, but I worked with the person who was on a lot of those campaigns. So when I left the agency, then about a year later, Hilo Hattie was no longer with Harris, and I ran into someone at an event, and told them that I had started my own agency and helped them with their 50th anniversary announcement. And they've been with me ever since. So we're about to celebrate their 60th anniversary. We're doing a fashion show at Ala Moana on October 15th. So look out for that. We're really having a really fun time.
Yeah.
And Diamond Bakery, they've been a client for 8 years. How most of I get my clients are from word of mouth. I work with Times supermarkets for years. They introduced me, Diamond Bakery introduced me to Times. And the Coconut Wireless and just doing really great work, gets around here in the state.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I am so impressed. I think that's the one thing you did not mention at the Chamber of Commerce when we met. What I really liked about you was all the technical things that you were talking about. And you had me on the edge of my seat. I'm like, okay, tell me more. I'd like to hear, how to, we are actually doing an event in Phoenix, Arizona in a couple weeks, September 25th. And we're trying to get our ad out there, which is why I was asking you all those questions about YouTube and, all the analytics of YouTube and what is the best thing to do. We're still kind of in the midst of it. So we'll probably, after our call, have a conversation with you.
We're kind of like newbies to the ad world, and we're just like getting challenges and obstacles. And we're like, how do people do this? And so, yeah,
I will say that the most important thing is these bots. Okay, girls, these bots are brutal, right? I'm going to show you. So I use ClickCease. They're my favorite bot protection company. And I'm going to just show you why it is so scary, right? Now, how I found ClickCease was a couple years ago, I started to see a decline in my Google ad performance and Microsoft. What was going on? Why all of a sudden the traffic looked like it was up. Why were we not getting as many conversions as we used to? And from that, I actually started this direct mail company as well. I'm going to have the security verification here. Let me get in there. And that's when I started this aerial impact direct mail company to help try to get more qualified leads for the solar industry. But I got served an ad for ClickCease, and it was kind of exactly what I was thinking. Like, oh, are your ads not working like they used to? Like, oh, maybe it's bots. And I was like, oh my God, So I set up a free trial and linked all my accounts, and it was incredible what I found. So I'm just going to show you one example here. Let's look at so many choices. Let's look at Seabright. So what you're going to see here, I'm going to go to the last 3 months. Let's get a real example. Now, at an average clock, so in Google, so you can protect Google ads, Facebook ads, and Microsoft ads. And an average Google click right now is about $6 for this client. So I'm going to make it $6. It's thinking hard. I guess maybe that's a big window of time. Okay. Now, if I go to Google Ads, I'm still thinking.
And for our audience,
I saved $53,000 in fake traffic.
Anna, real quick. For the audience that's not watching this on YouTube, I suggest you go to YouTube and watch this video, because she has a share screen on here. But if you're just listening on audio, she's on ClickCease with
C. Yeah, I'll send you guys a link so you can. I'll send you guys a link so they can get a better rate, affiliate rate. So $26,000 just in Google Ads I saved in the last 3 months. And then you should be asking me, well, how do we know it's fake, right? Always, and everyone who's listening, the scary part about digital marketing is that there is no third-party oversight online. When someone tells you, oh, we served 1 million impressions, well, that's great. How can they prove to you that that happened? And the fact is, like in traditional marketing, there's oversight. Nielsen records every TV station in the country. If we want to know, did our spot run, we can call Nielsen, they'll pull a report, and they have proof. They have a copy of our spot that ran on that TV network, and they can say, yes, this is when it ran. This is how many people were tuned in, right? Scarborough does it for radio. There are third parties that follow print publications to make sure they're distributed. There are even companies who stand on the side of streets and click cars that drive by billboards to prove that this is how many eyeballs you have the potential of reaching. There is no third-party oversight online at all. And that should scare you.
That is scary. That's scary because we can say like, okay, you got 1 million impressions. However, especially now in this day and age, AI is so popular. you're right, there's bots. And I remember in the meeting that we had at the Chamber of Commerce, you mentioned that there was this, it was almost half like the number that were bots as opposed to real people that actually looked at the ads. And that is insane. So ClickCease is a place that you can, I'm assuming that you can check the threat level, right? To see if real people were on, or if there were
Yes.
bots. Is that correct?
Correct. So what they'll do is you'll connect it. First, you'll get an account, and then it's on WordPress, or is usually the easy way, right? If you have a WordPress account, and then you connect your Google account to it, Google Ads. Under domain settings, you'll go to your Google protection and Facebook protection as well, and then you're going to link it so that the bots are blocked in real time. Now, Microsoft doesn't, they're very shady. And just back it up, like people are like, who's clicking on these ads? They're clicking on their own ads. These platforms are responsible. This is not competitiveness. That's my belief, right? Because they're trying to inflate their own revenue. And so, when we go to spy analysis, we can actually see, fraud analysis, we can see that why was this detected, right? It was outside of the United States, maybe, or we can tell there's a recording of it that there was no movement, right, on the site, right? And so the same thing with Microsoft before. We had to manually block these bots, but inside of Microsoft, you can only block 100 IPs at a time. But I'll tell you, we see that there's thousands in some days bots being blocked from Google, and same thing with Facebook, right? ClickCease says that overall 27% of all clicks are fraudulent, but I've seen that from my Facebook accounts, it's about 50%, and overall, and then from Google and Microsoft, it's a little bit lower, but it can depend on how many people you're targeting and what kind of business you have. But so what with Microsoft, it started to become that our numbers started to decline. And but then inside of ClickCease, they now have what's called auto domain blocking. So I can block more than 100 IPs. And if I block it on one account, it'll automatically block on another account. And then what happened? Boom, our results went right back up on Microsoft. So
Anna, let me ask you, because we have entrepreneurs and small business owners who are listening. What do you feel is the best way to advertise digitally? In your opinion, how can we advertise so that we are seen on the first page and we don't have to deal with bots?
Right. That's a great question. So I'm going to start where, like I always start with, which is the purchase funnel. Okay. So this is, we call this a purchase funnel, and our job in marketing is to move the customer from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel. In the example of solar, I'm aware that solar exists, consideration, God, my bill keeps climbing. What am I going to do? What other options do I have? Intent. Intent is where the lion's share of digital search begins. I'm now actively seeking a solution. I go online, I go to a browser, and I'm searching solar companies near me. What does solar cost? Is it worth it? Right? Then, boom, up pops paid and organic results. Right? This is the easiest to track, and typically has is most effective, right, for most companies. And then they click on the ad, and then they come to our website, and then they fill out a form. That's what we consider the action. Now, once they come to the website and they leave, the most important thing is that you have remarketing in place. Remarketing is what I like to call cyber stalking, because there is in traditional marketing an actual mathematical equation. It's called critical mass messaging. And what it says is that in order to get the customer from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel, we have to target 98% or 99% of that audience with 4 to 7 messages over 7 to 10 days. And if we do that, we'll get a 2% conversion. I'll give you an example. Okay. The McRib. McRib, they have this promotion every year, right? It's only around for 1 month. Well, why is McDonald's spending all this money for a promotion that's only around for 1 month? Well, what they're trying to do is steal market share from a Burger King or a Carl's Jr. They're hoping that during this promotional period, there's something that happens that changes the customer's behavior long-term. Maybe the McDonald's is closer to their office. Maybe it's easier parking. Maybe they have a crush on the person serving them this meal. Whatever the reason is, they're hoping that after the promotional period is over, that instead of going a couple times a week to a competitor, they will change their behavior and come to McDonald's. Now, but they also know, they know about this critical mass messaging. So they're not going to wait 7 to 10 days to serve 7 ads. No, they shove as many impressions into the first 3 to 5 days as possible on television. That's why you might see a commercial twice in a row. They don't care, right? It's just about how our human brain works, and we have to see something multiple times or we just forget about it, right? That's just how we shopping too, right? You might have added something to those shoes to the cart, but now you're busy, and unless they keep following you, you're like, oh man, I really want those shoes. Now you're going to be clicking back in, right? So the same thing is true digitally, but we don't have an equation for success. I mean, I have an equation, but there hasn't been any, book necessarily written. I'm actually writing one, but right now, which we can talk about at our next podcast once it gets published, if you guys want. But I like to serve the customer at least 9 impressions a day over the first 7 days when they leave the site. So they come to the website, they leave. I'm going to show them at least 9 ads per day for 7 days, so that I can get into their brain, right? Because especially in solar, what we know is that when someone does go into intent, depending on how familiar they are with solar in that market. If it's, Iowa, then there's not a lot of familiarity, right? Not a lot of competitors. California, or here in Hawaii or Arizona, people are very familiar and there's a lot of competitors. So typically, homeowner will look at 5 to 7 different companies. Then they leave. Then the lion's share of traffic will return 28 to 32 days later and pick 2 to 3 companies to get free quotes from. When customers use my plugin, we see that timeline shorten because we're giving them more solutions. It's less risky. A lot of people don't want to give information. They're afraid that they're not going to qualify, or they don't want to be bombarded, right? But over those 28 to 32 days, if I went to 7 companies, I'm not going to remember the one who I went to one time, right? We need to be following this customer, gently reminding them why us. And what happens is the customer ends up trusting you more. Oh, wow, I'm seeing them everywhere where I am, right? Mm-hmm. And that increases consumer confidence, and also make sure that you will get the opportunity to mm-hmm. present to this customer in whatever way possible.
So I'm interested to know your formula, because you said that there was a formula that, that's out there, but you have your own. Can you share a little bit about yours?
Sure. Yeah. So what I like to serve, how I do remarketing is I like to I'm a control freak online, because remember, we can't trust people. So that's one of the problems with Google remarketing, as a for instance, right? They say that they serve these impressions, but how do we know that they serve them? Right. So I like to go with a cost per click model. And there are some partners like Criteo who will allow us to bid by ourselves, right? We're optimizing for click, which is much easier to track because we can see that the traffic came to the site. There's a UTM parameter there. It tracked all the way through. So it's easier to trust. They have, rogue traffic click reports, things like that help us. They show us where the impressions ran, but we're optimizing for a click. Because I have clients who will say to me, oh, well, I'm doing remarketing. I'm like, oh, that's great. Have you ever seen your own ad? No. Well, then how do you know that they're running, right? You should be you should see them, and that's part of it. But what I like to do is I like to have a frequency of at least 9 daily. So 9 impressions a day over the first 7 days. And then I like to maintain what we call a win rate. So a win rate means, so if I go to Yahoo, all right, let's see. Okay, I didn't get one of my ads. Here's a Dime Bakery ad though, because I was just there ordering some products for a client the other day. So now I'm on the first page. Now, as I scroll down, when I scroll one full scroll, that's 100%. Now here's my ad because I was just on my site, right? So that's how fast it works. Now, as I keep scrolling down the page, there should be additional ads that pop up. Not getting any right now. Let's go to people. Let's see who wins here. Okay, so now this is important, ladies. See this ad up here? There's no little thing in the corner, little blue, little triangle in the corner. That means that the ad was directly placed from people. That's not on the display network, right? Now, but as I scroll down, so whoever my big fat Greek wedding is advertising a lot because they've taken all the spots, right? No display network is getting through here. Let's try it like a CNN. Oh, Diamond Bakery. Now you see the little blue corner? That means it's on the display network, right? So instead of having to advertise with people directly, we are saying, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to just throw money out there and hope that whoever stumbles upon it is looking for our solution. Instead, we're following people. They first went to our website. We tag them, cookies, and then they leave, and now we're following them where they go on their journey. So here's an impression, right? Now, how many impressions have I already seen? Oh, now this is my third, right? Okay, let's see. And how many times am I going to win? Maybe I'll win this next one. Oh, so Covert won that one, right? So I'm very aggressive, but what we call a win rate is when you're scrolling down the page, what percentage of the ads are you winning? So I like to win 100% of every scroll for most of the clients. Sometimes I win more, right? Sometimes I win 200% or 300%, but it also depends on seasonality, right? And this is very important with digital. I think people are always looking for, something they can learn and then they're done, but we're never done. And the reason we're never done is because everything affects your ability to perform online. Sociocultural events, the seasonality, the weather can and will impact your company's ability to perform, right? And then we also have to look at that we're not in control of these ad platforms, right? Google, they do whatever they want, right? And they do. And then sometimes we'll log into our account, we'll see that settings are changed, right? Same thing with Facebook. How many times have you logged in and seen that they change your profile, the way it looks, right? Every time they do these modifications, they're also updating their rules for how they distribute content. And we always, they care about them, right? Which they're a business too, right? So you always have to look out for yourself and see, hey, maybe just because this YouTube ad worked before, that's great. If it's not working now, okay, the answer is not to spend more money. And that's what I constantly hear. Because, by the time why I decided to write this book, is that, we're small businesses are in a crisis right now. And the devastation is widespread. And I find it to be more dangerous than even the pandemic because we haven't identified a strand and we don't have a cure, right? And every single day, it doesn't matter if I'm talking to a small mom and pop or a big company like a SunPower, the story is the same. That by the time they reach me, they've already been through 3 or more agencies, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars online without the promised result. And I finally got sick of it, and I needed a way to reach people faster. And that's kind of why I'm, wanting to do these kinds of podcasts and write this book, because we do have to get smarter faster, and people can save themselves fastest. It's not trusting third parties. Yes, you need the third parties, but you also have to arm yourself with how to spot a fraud so that you can quickly navigate and not have to go through this, endless cycle of despair, whatever.
I'm really excited to read your book. I'm excited to read it and, see it. So we're going to have you again so you can discuss your book, because I think that's fascinating. In fact, it's so funny because today I was like, what are we going to talk about with Anna? Because I did want to talk about your book, but I'm really happy that you talked about marketing, because I think that's such a valuable thing for a lot of us entrepreneurs and small business owners to understand. And I believe and I feel that our revenue, the increase of our revenue is based on our marketing. We can have this amazing company and this amazing product, this amazing solution, but if we're not marketing it properly, or the frequency that you mentioned 9 times, 7 to 9 times within a span of a couple of days, right? Then nobody's going to know about us. And I think that's the issue with a lot of small business owners, is that there are very few eyeballs that are looking at, the company or the product unless it's Coconut Wireless. And you know, here in Hawaii, Coconut Wireless, as long as like we're talking about the product or the solution every single day, or people are posting it and they're sharing it and whatnot, then there will be more eyeballs towards us. However, I like what you're saying, that there's a formula for a lot of us small business owners to use. So one of the questions I have, because I'm fascinated that I saw Diamond Head cookies several times, 3 times on an ad. How did you do that?
Well, that's the magic of remarketing, right? And so it starts with placing a tag on the client site, and then I create these campaigns, and I never let anyone bid for me. Everyone's always, when you start a Google campaign, it's like, oh, use a smart builder. Now, don't use a smart builder, right? And don't let anyone optimize for you, because what they don't know is what your business, they don't know your business, right? It's very easy with a retail experience to really know, because the transaction happened, right? That's why Facebook and Meta, I mean, everything I see, I want to buy, right? I mean, don't we all? They really know us, right? But it's easy to monetize because the transaction did occur, right? All the way through. But with businesses, that's not usually the case, right? Just because someone filled out a quote form or asked, scheduled an appointment does not mean that they were qualified. It doesn't mean that they actually attend that appointment. And so then it makes it very hard, especially, when you're not tracking it. And that's, I think, one of the biggest problems with businesses is they're, spending money, but they have no way, they don't really know what's happening, right? And that is of critical importance.
Yeah, I'm glad you're writing a book, because I think one of the things that a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs run into is they just don't know how. They don't know where to start. And of course, they're going to Google all their questions to try to get all of their answers. I mean, I remember when I started my business like 6 years ago, and I was completely lost. So Google was my go-to guru. And I didn't know, well, there were no books like yours. I didn't know all of this back end. So Google's the main trusted. And now, what you said before January started talking was, given the example of the business owner who just says, oh, I just need to spend more money. That was me. I just poured so much money into so much marketing, and the ROI on that, the return on investment, was under $100 compared to thousands of dollars I invested.
Exactly. And if it's not working, if it's not working, if people are always like, oh, they told me I had to spend more money. And no, that's not the answer. Whatever traffic you're sending to your site, there should be some kind of conversion. And if there's not, then we have to put the brakes on and figure out why that is. What is the customer seeing? Are they having a mobile experience that we don't like, right? Is there a bug on the site preventing them from filling out the form? Is it, that the site's loading too slow that they're leaving? Is that the ad that they saw, not what they expected when they got to the website, right? So it's like really doing some detective work to figure out, like, why is this traffic not converting? Changing the experience and then restarting, but it's not to just send more traffic. Hey, ladies, actually, I want to let you know, I gotta let my accountant in. He's here for my 9 o'clock. He's early. Do you want to pause it for a second and I'll be right back?
Okay, so when you walked away, Anna, me and January were talking, and I was saying, well, January was saying that she wants to look at, our ad and everything. And I was saying, okay, I'm still a little bit confused, because as somebody who kind of feels a little scattered, like, I'm a how-to person, like, what's the next step? Where would my next step be to get right with the digital marketing behind the business?
Yes. So the book that I wrote is about just that. And it's going to contain cheat sheets, like that you print out. I'm going to do like online recordings of how to set up campaigns, how to optimize. And that's making a lot of progress. So I hope, I'll be able to give you guys an update next week, even on when that might be able to be available. And
Absolutely.
In the short term, one of the things that I want to mention about the bots, right, is that even with ClickSees, you can only block bots inside of search. What I mean by that is when someone's inside of google.com or inside of Microsoft Bing, the Edge browser, or the second it's outside of we call it the display network. I showed you those ads. You saw the Dime Bakery ads. If it's outside, YouTube is considered the display network as well. We can't block bots in that way, right? So that's and it doesn't mean that these ads won't work. It just means that you want to remember that there's going to be fraud in there, and there's nothing you can do about it, right? But really, I think really trying to narrow your audience, is the best strategy. Really drilling in on who is the person who really is going to benefit from what service we're providing. What are their psychographics? What is their age? What emotions are they? How are we going to fill this need, right? And the more, because especially with YouTube, they have so many behavioral sets and such, and make it as narrow as possible. And even if YouTube says, oh, that's a small audience, you might want to increase it. Don't. Start with what you know, and then look at the results, and it's always better to have a longer window. I think a lot of people make a mistake, and I've done it myself, of putting like a daily bid in of like, maybe it's $100 and maybe our event's in 5 days, right? Well, that's not when these algorithms really can do their best work. They do it based off of learning. So the longer you give it, right? If you, instead of having a $500 budget over 5 days, put that $500 budget over a month, lifetime budget. And then because I want to believe that they want to help you, right? But they also are going to spend all your money no matter what, right? So you want to, instead of giving them a short window where they're not able to, they're just going to take the money and charge you whatever. You want to spread it over this. Sorry, my dog is so excited out there. She's like this big too, like this little miniature dachshund. But you want to put Coco, stop. Sorry, guys. One of the joys of working from home. But yeah, give yourself, and with YouTube, you want to have a couple ads with just very different variables, like a different call to action. Like it says, like sign up, and the next one's learn more, or and don't change too many variables, but you definitely want to at least have 4 ads inside of every YouTube campaign with a different, rotate your headlines, rotate some of your actions, because the more ads you have, the more opportunity YouTube will have to serve those ads. So it helps them do better.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Okay, Anna, I know you're busy. You have your cute little dog waiting, your accountant. So you've got some stuff going on. So where can we find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. And that's a good place to connect with me. And yeah, for companies interested in technology solutions, or really looking at their company in a more deep way, like what is the technology transformation that they're trying to achieve, where I'm open to that.
Awesome. Anna Covert on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for your time and for dropping so much knowledge on our podcast. We really appreciate it. For those of you that are just listening in, please watch the YouTube, because Anna has shared her screen and shared a lot of golden nuggets. So please watch us on YouTube. So Anna, thank you so much. Helen, where can we find you?
Yes, thank you so much, Anna, for coming on. I've learned tons. It's valuable information, and I'm sure our audience will get so much from it. And we will place all of your information and your link in our show notes. So thank you again for coming on. You can find me. Sure. You can find me on Hell of a Journey with 1 L. You can also go get my book on Amazon and Audible, Nothing Sexier Than Freedom. And the sequel is coming out soon. Again, Anna, your book is coming out too. So you definitely got to keep us updated on that. I love books. I read them all the time, and I'm looking forward to getting yours for sure. Thank you.
I will keep you posted. Thanks, ladies. Aloha.
Right.
Aloha.
Aloha, everyone.
Aloha.
Want to hear more?
Visit us at sexyfreedommedia.com.